Hey, another week, another episode of Dexter New Blood, this time episode 5 titled Runaway. And this episode, just by the way, at the moment has a 10 out of 10 on IMDb. Like that, look, that's gonna go down, but it's kind of impressive. Like that's exciting to see. Also, we are halfway through this season officially now, and it's time to talk about what happened. Alright. So the first thing I gotta say is Kurt is the killer, it's confirmed, okay? He's the one that's been keeping the women in the creepy camera motel rooms and everything, and he's the one that's been killing said women. It's confirmed, we now know that. I was hoping it was a misdirection up until this point, and really there was a deeper conspiracy going on regarding him and whoever the actual killer was, but no. He's the killer, it was kind of obvious I suppose, but yeah. That's confirmed. We did get a bit of insight into him as a character in this episode though, and more specifically into Kurt as a killer, which was interesting to see. So first up, there is this moment where Chloe is thanking him for letting her stay in the motel room early on in the episode, and he creepily responds like, "My pleasure." We're like, "Ew, you sick creep." Yeah, it's literally your pleasure because you're gonna kill her. Ugh. But we do find out that it's not creepy in a sexual way or anything. He's not sexually interested in these women in the slightest. He's in it for the hunt because he is obviously, as confirmed, this crazy psychotic killer, and that is what he's interested in. Nothing, any more than that. And this all kind of culminates when he decides to finally let Chloe go and tells her that she can leave. But as we know, this is all a facade, and his plan is to really just snipe her down as she's running away, as we've seen with previous women throughout a couple episodes earlier. But it's at this point where Chloe refuses to follow his rules and all that kind of stuff, and she starts to screw with his method a little bit. And then we start to see that he can't really handle this, and when things aren't going exactly as he needs them to, that is just not exactly a good thing. So when they are actually finally outside and Chloe decides to run towards the gun rather than away, this really screws with him. And when he accidentally kills her, which was unfortunate for her, we see that he really does not like not killing people in the exact way that he needs to. We see now that he has this very compulsive behavior here, and that he needs to kill in the very specific way that he needs to, much like we've seen with other killers throughout the original series, like the Trinity killer, and the way that he always killed in fours. And Dexter as well, in the way that he kills bad people. Jumping back to earlier in the episode though, early on, Dexter and Deborah, the fake Deborah in his head, are talking about Harrison and whether he's going to cross the line into becoming a killer or not. That's kind of what this whole season is about, we know that. At one point, Deborah calls him a monster, and we know that this is obviously all Dexter calling himself that and judging himself. And it's just interesting to see this further, go further down the line, as the line between Dexter wanting his son to be like him and the fear of that being a very thin, fine line, like he kind of is very conflicted about that. And this all culminates when Harrison screams at him and is like, "Why the fuck should I trust you?" and whatever, and storms the hell out of there. And this constant swaying back and forth between their trust and their conflict, that's really the heart of this series. Something else that I wanted to talk about, and this is kind of just a follow-up of things that I've said in a couple of the previous videos of this, is that at one point we see Tess, the bartender, and she is somebody that we have barely seen. And I noticed throughout this episode that it's kind of funny how we suspected that some people in the town and stuff were going to be big major characters in this, like the gun shop owner that Dexter works at, and a few other people like that who have really barely turned up at all throughout this series and are just not at all the key players like I thought they might have been. It's funny how we built them up for their potential and who's this, who's that, and then they turned out to be kind of nobody. And some other characters have sprung up and become bigger characters than we maybe expected at the very start, like Molly Park, who kind of popped out of nowhere, and Kurt Coldwell, who before Dexter killed Matt, we didn't know he was going to be a big character. Something else that I wanted to talk about that my wife pointed out to me is that during the scene where Dexter is trying to get the drugs to go kill somebody later in the episode, which I will get to soon, my wife says ketamine is an S8 drug, whatever that means, and should be locked away, and that vet lady that he got the drugs from should not be qualified if she's just gonna give drugs away all willy-nilly and says help yourself to all the drugs. Okay, next up is the kill list party, which Harrison is obviously attending as he gets invited by all of the people that were on Ethan's kill list from the episode prior. And this kill list party very much reminds me of something that would be in a horror slasher movie. It very much reminds me of Scream. It's sort of meta in that way. Anyway, at one point at the party, Audrey is asking Harrison about Molly Park's podcast, the true crime podcast talking about the Trinity killer, which we saw him listening to in the previous episode. And this part was kind of hurtful, as he's not giving anything away, so he's just it was a good episode or whatever. Sometimes you just have to laugh at the fucked up stuff, and I'm like, oh god, that's just You're pretending like it doesn't hurt? Oh man, that's kind of hard to watch. But it kind of gave me some insight into real life when, like, how do people who are the victims of real life crimes feel about true crime podcasts that might actually be about their specific event that happened in their lives that were obviously not a very good event? Like, that must be hurtful. And in that way, maybe true crime podcasts are slightly problematic? I don't know. Anyway, that's not really the point. Just a fleeting thought that I had in my head. Anyway, further on in this party scene, drugs and potential serial killers do not mix well, as we see when Harrison takes a bunch of drugs and then overdoses, because that's kind of what happens. And I expected this to be foul play. I was expecting like somebody's trying to kill Harrison. It turned out to just be kind of a coincidence where there's this drug dealer who has led to many other deaths in the area that, you know, wasn't specifically targeting Harrison or anything. But before Harrison does overdose and pass out though, he will not shut the fuck up about Jim Lindsay not being Dexter's real name to Audrey. And now she knows that. Like, she just thinks it's kind of a weird thing that he said and maybe it's nothing, but she's noted that in her mind and she's going to be telling others further on in this episode that I'll get to soon. We then find out that the drugs were supplied by somebody named Miles. Dexter now goes to kill Miles via drugging and kidnapping him, as is his usual MO in the original series, where he would take people out with the needle and then take them off to a kill room. This time though, he gets interrupted by, of course, the trusty cop that we all know and love, Logan, who is just like this responsible, nice guy doing his best, but at this point, it's really not good to see him because we want to see Dexter kill people, right? But it turns out that maybe this was actually kind of a good thing. I'll get to that in a sec. So as the cops are approaching Dexter, about to kill this guy, on a whim, he decides to go for Plan B. And rather than being seen killing somebody, or at least, you know, drugging somebody publicly, he instead decides to do this public outburst and decides to act as the concerned parent. Not exactly acting, because he is a concerned parent, but he's doing this in a way that Dexter never naturally would. In this case, he is making Jim Lindsay punch and bash this Miles guy, telling him to stay the fuck away from his son. And this actually works on Logan, making him look at Jim Lindsay as this very sympathetic, concerned parent. And, you know, he kind of looks after him from there, where he's like, come on, we got to go to the police station just as like a precaution and whatever. Those are the rules, but like, then you can go. You can go, I know. Like, he feels bad for him. And like, conversely, we kind of feel bad for Logan because we know he's getting tricked and everything. But anyway, so they go off onto the police station and Logan threatens to charge Miles with all supposed 18 of these recent fatal overdoses that have happened in Iron Lake. And Harrison would have been number 19 if he didn't get saved at the party. But we then find out during this interrogation that Miles is just the middleman. He's nobody, which actually implicates something about Dexter here, where he was about to kill somebody who actually wasn't like the main antagonist here. And that's kind of an issue. I'm okay with it. Like, it's fine. Like, narratively, I'm all good with it. It doesn't wreck the show or anything. But like, that is a bit of conflict there for Dexter, where it's like, you're about to kill a guy. Like, you can see that he's kind of making quick decisions and everything when it comes to his son. Like, he's not as level-headed. He's just out to get revenge if anybody crosses his son. That kind of does tell us something about Dexter and the potential recklessness that he might go in because of this. Anyway, we find out that the actual drug maker, the Walter White of this whole situation and the bigger fish to fry, is this guy named Jasper Hodge. So Dexter is now on the chase and he's going after Jasper. He's in his house, it's intense, the music starts playing up, he's gonna kill this motherfucker, you know, like, what the hell is about to happen? Well, he doesn't actually get to kill him, in the way that he wanted anyway. Because who shows up yet again but Logan, interrupting a kill one more time. This time, Dexter has to make another quick decision to not kill somebody in the exact way that he wanted to. Much like Kurt accidentally killed the woman incorrectly earlier in the episode, Dexter has to choose to do his less preferable route of killing somebody, and he stages this overdose that looks natural and that when the cops find the body, it won't be suspicious. This is another interesting point to how Dexter has changed a little bit in his methods though, as Jasper here is not a direct killer. Yes, he has technically made people die, you know, via the drugs that he has supplied, but he hasn't like outright, you know, killed somebody with his own bare hands. So that is just kind of an interesting thing to note. I don't know if it means anything. I don't know if it changes Dexter's whole mentality or anything. I wouldn't quite go that far because he is still indirectly killing people, but you know, It's just something to note. Okay, and now I gotta say my observation of the week. It's another parallel between Dexter and Breaking Bad. And this is that the drugs that Harrison overdosed on are blue. They're blue as well. Oh, it's Walter White's drugs. Is it Heisenberg? Is he at large? No, of course not. It's just this Jasper guy. It's not Breaking Bad. But Dexter also, I also just want to point out, also often makes breakfast for his son. You know, Walter White Jr., anyone? I don't think so at all, but I just wanted to point it out a little bit. I would love if these shows were somehow in the same universe, you know? It's all coming together. But I'm sure that's not actually the case. Okay, now jumping over to the complete other side of this episode and a completely different location. Molly Park, the self-made cop, now is hanging out with Angela. They've gone to this police conference place that is taking place in New York. I'm walking here, it's New York. And who shows up here but Batista? Batista! You know, he showed up and I'm like, oh my God. Like, I shouted to my wife, I'm like, he was in the original show! Just everything is so exciting in this show. Every time any slight thing happens, I'm like, look, it's a thing. I just get so excited by everything. Anyway, he says a speech at this police convention thing that's taking place, harping on about the Bay Harbor butcher still, and telling everyone that the murders that took place in Miami all those years ago were linked to the MO of one person, and that he suspected that it was one person killing all these people who were all linked because they were also all bad people. You know, he figured out that the killer was killing bad people. But Angela, you know, although she hasn't picked up anything quite yet, this is starting to hint some particular things that may come down the line when it comes to her finding out the truth about Dexter, you know, in the next few episodes. It is funny though that Batista is going on all about the Bay Harbor butcher as if he's like this smart guy who knows everything about him, since he never caught Dexter, even after witnessing him kill the brain surgeon in the police station in the series finale. Like, he still didn't know that he was a serial killer after he saw him kill somebody. I do find that kind of funny that he's preaching to everybody like, we know this about this guy, but like, you didn't really know that much, did you? Anyway, after that, Batista then has a one-on-one with Angela, and he's telling her about Deborah and Dexter. Oh, and it's like, oh my God, it's him talking about the characters that we love. It's just like old Dexter. But then he gives away the information that Dexter had a son named Harrison, and that he is now dead along with his sister Deborah. And this is another little one, just one step closer to Angela finding out the truth about Dexter's past. Now nearing the end of the episode, one more thing Angela finds out while she's in New York is that Matt Coldwell has been going around these hotel rooms, right? But it's really just some dude when they see on the security cameras that it's an imposter. It's not really Matt Coldwell. And they now know that Kurt was lying about, well, talking to him and him being alive and all that stuff. And it's just another little piece getting closer to the truth and all that stuff. That's very much what this episode was about. Piecing together little truths and getting there, you know, making that picture a little bit fuller, you know? Does that analogy make any sense? I don't know. Okay, so now, the final conversation between Kurt and Harrison in the cafe gives me like these big vibes of the theme of this season overall. Kurt tells him that he has potential and he's interested in him for some reason. And he seems like actually genuinely interested. Like maybe he wants to, you know, help him find his own killing way. Like he kind of suspects that he is like him in certain ways. And we can see now that there is this kind of fight for Harrison's soul here. Whether knowingly or not between Kurt and Dexter, there is this fight for like good and bad, at least when it comes to serial killing ways. Dexter is acting as the avenging angel on Harrison's shoulder, while Kurt represents the devil and the dark side that he could go towards when it comes to killing people. As opposed to Dexter, who could, you know, lead him astray from killing altogether, or could at least teach him the code and make him kind of a good killer. You know, technically there's no such thing in real life, but this is a fun show, and I kind of want Dexter to teach Harrison to be a good killer. And now we are at the end of the episode. The final shot leaves us with Angela piecing everything together via the info that she got from Batista, and Audrey, who now told him that Jim Lindsay wasn't his real name, and she pieces things together and finds out that, yes, he is Dexter, the guy that Batista was talking about earlier in the episode. She brings up a picture and it's confirmed. She now knows at least a little bit about his his lies here. She doesn't know that he's a killer or anything, but she does know that he is Dexter Morgan, and he is the brother of the woman who solved the Trinity killer case many years ago, and that he has a son named Harrison. I do think it's a bit of a stretch for her to find out everything just with this stuff, because they are small coincidences, or at least seemingly so if you don't know everything. But, you know, the show's got to get to a point at some point, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's got to move along, so I'm kind of okay with it. I don't think it's too much of a stretch for her to find this stuff out, and yeah, she started to suspect, and now she knows at least somewhat about Dexter's truth. And I can't wait to find out where the hell that's going to go in the next episode, and I can't wait to find out what the hell's going to happen with Harrison and Dexter, and is Dexter going to kill more people? Like, I hope so, because now we are halfway through the series, we're 5 episodes in, and Dexter still only killed 2 people, and one of those was not, you know, not the way Dexter kills people, so it wasn't quite the same. And yeah, I'm such a psycho, aren't I? I want to see Dexter kill the people that, in the way that he wants to kill people. Anyway, that is all for episode 5, Runaway of Dexter New Blood, and that's all that I got to say for this week. Catch me next week and all that stuff, and please do the things, you know what the things I like, comment, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Goodbye.